This section is not on the land deed or on the city map. It's essentially invisible and based on the terrain. No one really knows about this spot.
And that opening leads where exactly?
After some conversations with neighborhood kids, it leads to an old abandoned room. Probably an old food storage place in the basement of the mansion.
Wow. The mansion spreads this far, huh?
Oh yes. The underground spreads across the entire city. This mansion was clearly built to attach itself to those old catacombs.
Wait. Do you feel that?
You mean the feeling of being pulled, but also feeling a little queasy?
Yes. I believe it is a spatial disturbance, possibly a time distortion. There must be a portal nearby. This is the feeling you get before you enter such a portal. Only it's stronger the closer you are.
I'll take your word for it. But I also felt like that when the elders visited me.
Makes sense. They can create portals at will in and out of the Master Realm.
You will have to explain those realms to me if we get out of this alive.
That I cannot guarantee. Not if the shadows are behind everything.
Let's worry about that when the time comes. Come on. Okay, so the kid said this door is locked. Luckily, I'm a master at picking locks.
Just be careful. This seems too easy. There could be traps.
I doubt they know this part of the mansion exists. You alright back there? You seem a little quiet. I promise you we are not going to get caught. Yet, anyway. We will see what happens once we get in. Constance?
Darryl, I will be free soon. All trouble before me.
What happened?
Our secret entrance wasn't so secret. We were captured. Are you okay? You seemed uneasy in your unconscious state.
Oh, just another bad dream. Perhaps it was these shadows you speak of. I keep hearing a dark voice. Tells me it will be free soon.
What? Tell me the exact words you remember.
I will be free soon. All will tremble before me.
Whatever that is, it isn't the shadows. The shadows are a hive mind. You would have heard, we are going to be free. All will tremble before us. This isn't good. Your dream started a while ago, right?
Right after I met you. One of the reasons I didn't trust you at first. I thought you drugged me.
This is tied to everything somehow.
Silence! We know who you are, Constance. You are an imposter, a trick.
Primitive talk. We are all real. We aren't a trick. No one is an imposter. A different version of someone else is still just a person.
That's what your friend said before we killed them.
What did you say?
What did they call themselves? The Shadow Brigade?
How do you know that?
Because we interrogated and killed them, just like we will do with you.
Typical bully, hiding in the dark, too afraid to show themselves. I know a lie when I hear one, Constance.
Well, if I was lying, how would we know about Project Peter Pan?
The shadows. Perhaps you kidnapped my friend Franklin. Perhaps you had a similar version to the plan yourself. I mean, you are a different version of one of my friends, right?
Constance, I would spend less time asking questions and more time pleading for your pitiful life. The Shadow Brigade is an abomination.
And who are you to judge?
My name is not important. Just know that we are the Light Brigade. The light lies. The shadow shows us the truth.
Light Brigade? Fascinating. You mean you are the opposite? A version of my team that fights the Elders and the Order of Light?
If only it was that easy. The shadows gave us knowledge to the true nature of the war. And it isn't the Elders who are our enemy. It is the pitiful groups they used to help imprison the shadows.
You are just trying to mess with me.
Wasn't it you that said, if we can't trust the Elders, then who can we trust? You know deep down what I say is true.
You will regret this. You are being used.
Enough.
You are like me. Tough to crack, but we will. You both are going to help perpetuate our plan whether you're willing or not. Take them to the chamber.
All hail, Obsitans Abisus. All hail, Obsitans Abisus. All hail, Obsitans Abisus.
For the Light Brigade.
Welcome to the quest for the Green Ball, lost in Dreamlands. What a wild week that was. We now have our first playoff berths, not really surprising with the way the teams are playing. We also have our first division champion. The other two divisions, though, are in flux with two new first place teams. Projections were obviously off for many of us, and some of that was good and some of it was bad. Two big trades happened before the deadline last Friday as well, and one that affected that division title we just mentioned. One of the crazier results happened in the last as More Than Conquerors travel to Rome 1890 to take on my squad, Minerva's Minions, with first place in the European Void on the line. This match was expected to be close. It was expected to see both teams score over 100 points. It was also supposed to go down to Sunday night, but a few plays at the end of the noon window of games and a beast performance on Sunday night led the Minions to a 131.36 to 62.1 beatdown against More Than Conquerors. The match was close and seemed like it was heading for a low-scoring, grinded-out finish. Both players to watch struggled. Thursday night was obviously rough with the snow game. Both our squads also had points on the bench, so it seemed like nothing was going right. But then it all changed with one freak play when scary Terry McLaurin caught an 86-yard touchdown pass, finishing with 102 yards on the day. Right after that, Austin Seibert missed the extra point to take a point away from More Than Conquerors. It was a double whammy. The afternoon players all finished lower than projections, including Kyler Murray, meaning the Minions won even before Saquon Barkley went off in that Sunday night game. Barkley had a monster performance that broke Eagles records and puts Barkley in rare company. He had 255 rushing yards to get an extra 5 bonus points. He had 2 70-plus yard touchdown runs to get 2 extra bonus points. He also added 47 receiving yards because why not? Barkley had 49.2 points to turn the match into a blowout. It's also significant because it erased the points lead More Than Conquerors had over the Minions. It went from over 70 to less than a point, just like that. Patrick Mahomes also contributed with 269 passing yards, 60 rushing yards, and 3 touchdowns. Kenneth Walker added 93 yards. David Montgomery had 73 yards and a score before leaving with a shoulder injury for More Than Conquerors. No one else really stepped up, not even the Vikings defense, which More Than Conquerors acquired at the trade deadline, sending Kareem Hunt to Loki Lebowski Thor. The biggest surprise was Joe Mixon having a dud, just 45 yards. Also, as we said, both players to watch struggled. Amon-Ra St. Brown only had 62 yards, and DK Metcalf was held to 59 yards. Both teams are now 7-5 and can clinch postseason berths with wins next week, but the Minions take over first place in the European Void based on divisional record, 3-1 to More Than Conquerors, 2-2. Plus, the third tiebreaker, points, is also now in play in case they are tied with divisional record by the end of the season. The last 2 weeks will be very interesting. This match was huge for my Minions, who have now won 4 straight after a rough 3-5 start with some heartbreaking losses. A lot of work to do still to guarantee a playoff spot, even though the postseason does seem likely now. But whenever you're blowing out other good teams that certainly have the tools to make a run of their own, you must be doing something right. So I'm going to enjoy this one for a second, and then look right ahead to another huge divisional matchup that's coming next week. Of course, the game of the week isn't the only match that had big-time implications. The other divisions had some fireworks too. Let's check out everything else in the best of the rest. Loki Lebowski Thor traveled to Barcelona in 1992 to take on the Clash at Demon Head in another key European Void match. Lebowski Thor won the big divisional game, 70.36 to 63.72. Jalen Hurts had 1 touchdown and Spencer Schrader had 3 field goals. Lebowski Thor acquired Kareem Hunt to help in a bye-week hell. He came through with 87 yards in a tough, low-scoring battle. The Broncos defense stepped up, though, to finish with 5 sacks, an interception, and a fumble recovery, scoring more than the Vikings defense that was traded to More Than Conquerors. Jordan Love had 2 scores for the Clash at Demon Head, and Trey McBride added 133 yards, but there wasn't much else. Lebowski Thor is now 6-6 and just a game back in the division and of the 5th playoff spot with 2 weeks to go. Also tied record-wise for the 6th and final playoff spot. In the American Void, Air Jordan traveled to Mexico City 1955 and played spoiler against the Stellar Bitches in a 78.12 to 58.26 win. The upset is even more significant because Air Jordan sent Cortland Sutton, Tank Dell, Javonte Williams, and Kyle Pitts to remember the Titans for Rico Dowdle, Rome Odunze, and Evan Ingram. It's a big downgrade. Dowdle did add 95 yards, but also lost a fumble. Odunze was held to 39 yards. He won with Bo Nix passing for 2 scores, and Cameron Dicker and the Cardinals defense combining for 30 points. Luke Schoonmaker also had a touchdown. The Stellar Bitches had a touchdown by Rashawn Johnson and another one by Zach Ertz. But it was a very forgettable week. Air Jordan is 3-9 and already eliminated, but the Stellar Bitches are now 5-7, losing the 6th time in 7 weeks after a 4-1 start. The playoffs are still in reach, a game back of the final wildcard spot, but they need to win out and get some help now. Remember the Titans traveled to Toronto 22-35 and celebrated an American Boy Division title after defeating the Overcomers 132.32 to 95.58. This one took on a different feel after the trade with Air Jordan. Cortland Sutton dropped 97 yards and 2 scores to help out. Javonte Williams only had 4 yards though. Jamar Gibbs did get 99 yards and 2 touchdowns. Matthew Stafford added 2 scores, and A.J. Brown had a big day with 109 yards and a touchdown. Will Lutz went nuts with 5 field goals, including 2 50-plus yarders. The Buccaneers defense added 4 sacks and a fumble recovery, allowing just 7 points. C.J. Stroud picked up 2 touchdowns to lead the Overcomers. A.A. Ron Jones had 129 yards and a score, but did lose a fumble. Cooper Kupp also reached the end zone. Derrick Henry collected 140 yards. Remember, the Titans is now 8-4 and in good shape to go for a first-round bye, still alive for the number 1 overall seed. The Overcomers fall to 4-8 and will most likely miss the playoffs despite not being officially eliminated yet. In the Asia-Pacific Void, Risky Business traveled to Tokyo 1981 to take on defending champion Green Acres and won 108.96 to 90.2. The win clinched a postseason berth for Risky Business and also puts them in first place in the division by 1 game. Risky Business had a monster game by Josh Jacobs with 106 yards and 3 touchdowns. Kyron Williams added 72 yards and a score but lost a fumble. Mark Andrews had 46 yards and a score. Baker Mayfield passed for 194 yards and a touchdown. The Dolphins defense stepped up in a big way with 4 sacks, an interception, and a fumble recovery. Risky Business is now 9-3 and the current top team in the league. Green Acres falls to 4-8 and is most likely going to miss the playoffs despite not being officially eliminated. Lastly, the elite Mother Tuckers went to Beijing 31-45 and defeated Pounders for the 2nd time this season, 120.02 to 82.58. Devon Achan collected 56 yards and 2 scores, and Tony Pollard had 129 yards and a touchdown. Justin Herbert threw for 218 yards and rushed for a touchdown, and DJ Moore went off for 119 yards, a touchdown, and a 2-point conversion. George Kittle reached the end zone as well and picked up 82 yards. The Texans defense had a monster day, 8 sacks, an interception, 2 fumble recoveries, and a touchdown. It was a bit of a bye week hell for Pounders without Breece Hall and James Cook. He had 3 scores by Lamar Jackson to lead the way, but left the better quarterback on the bench. Jalen Warren and Jackson Smith and Jigba both scored as well. Pounders falls to 8-4 and is now a game back of Risky Business, with a potential huge match coming up in Week 14. The elite Mother Tuckers are now 6-6 and are still clinging to the 6th and final playoff spots. The power rankings will certainly get turned on its head again, but Risky Business is getting closer to cementing themselves as the top team heading into the playoffs. But don't count out, remember, the Titans or Pounders either. There will be some movement in the middle as well, but we do have more clarity with multiple teams up for elimination in Week 13. Anything can happen in 2 weeks though. One thing is for sure, whatever the final playoff bracket looks like, these power rankings show that whoever gets in, it will be a battle to win the Green Bowl, regardless of seeding. The first round byes matter even more in a season like this, only needing 2 wins to claim the title instead of 3. And those byes will most likely come out of the American and Asia Pacific voids, barring some crazy upsets down the stretch. That's the show for the week. Hope you enjoyed it. Join us tomorrow as we preview the second to last week of the regular season, including our first of 2 Flex Game of the Weeks. Before you go, check out the updated rankings through 12 weeks. Until next time, salut.